Okay, welcome back to the Green IT stage. I'm really excited to announce Heinrich's presentation about artificial intelligence in the service of sustainability. We put the German title, but the presentation will be in English, so I also do the facilitation and the questions in English, and I now give the floor to Heinrich.
Yes, thank you, Moritz. We just had a quick talk, and you said what's the name? Sentry is already working with a sustainability provider. So good to see that there's actually, people, companies taking action already. My name is Heinrich. I'm one of the co-founders of Planted, and I'm going to tell you today a little bit more of AI in the service of sustainability. What does that mean? You're going to see. So, quick agenda, the problem, climate change, climate crisis. Just going to quickly go into that. I think and hope that you already know a little bit about that. Solution, more about Planted, so you understand a little bit like the team, the company behind our solution. And then I'm going to deep dive a little bit more into the product, into our service and how we develop that. Lastly, hope to get in touch. Quick disclaimer, we're hiring senior devs at the moment, senior product managers and senior product designers. If you feel like, hey, this could be a fit for me, our stand is just over there and my contact details will be displayed at the end. All right, the problem? Well, we actually call it a climate crisis or climate catastrophe because climate change, that's like 6 years ago. We have 4.5 years left based on science. If you look out the window, if you look at current data of the climate, well, it's most probably not 4 years left. It's more like we're already over the tipping points, but we still have hope. And I think even the worst case, if we do better, it's still something good for society and for the environment. There's a solution if you look at the industry, if you look at companies, and they can be part of the solution. The European Union actually put a law into place, which is starting next year, which forces all bigger companies, it's like 50,000 companies, to disclaim their sustainability data. And disclaiming your sustainability data is ecological data, so that's the E in ESG. Is social data, so how do you treat your employees, how do you treat people, how do you work together, and it's governance sustainability as well, so what kind of governance do you have in place to make sure that your business is sustainable. What are we doing? So we help basically service-based companies to get this data and act on this data. I'm going to go into detail for this more. But why are we doing this? Because problems struggle really hard to actually start, because it's a complex regulatory. We actually had a quick talk at our stand, and it was like, I'm just going to start with this law, and it's all written there, so let's do it. It's easy. But then you deep dive and deep dive and deep dive, and it's getting more and more complex. And in the end, it's quite a challenge for companies to disclaim this data. So this is where we're helping. And then secondly, even more important, we help companies to take action. Because you get the data, and then you have to do something with the data. Just getting the data, it's not useless. It's a big historical step to have some KPIs for sustainability. However, taking action is the most important part. And companies also struggle there. What are we doing? We're actually combining all the negative aspects, so the negative impact a company has in social, ecological, and governance sustainability, with positive points. So you can reduce your negative impact, but you can also, because it's not going to help in the next 4 years just to reducing your negative impact, you also have to do something good. Think about regenerating ecosystems. Think about actually seeing where you have a negative impact and really try to work on that and make it not just zero, but make it positive in the end. For this, we developed an all-in-one ESG platform. where we have the data collection part. You get a strategy. You get actually real, action points, climate actions to act on that. You get environmental projects, and in the end, you get a report, because that's the law. You have to report it. You have to make it public. You have to actually send it to the European Union. If you don't do that, in France, you go to jail. In Germany, not yet. You just pay money. But you really have to report this data. So some of our features, I'm going to focus today on this last point, the AI-supported processes. But you can see we're working with auditors together. We're following scientific and official standards. We have expert support, and we try to do local action. I'm going to also dive deeper into this when presenting Planted. But today, the topic is going to be about the AI-supported processes. A little bit of background of Planted. What did we do already? We started as a tree planting company, so far away from software, but we always thought about software at the same time. Like, intrinsically, we always said, like, climate action has to be as easy as possible. You know, whatever we did, it had to be super easy for the user to do it. And this actually followed as a concept into our software, which we're publishing. So whatever we publish, UX, UI, super important, because if you don't understand it, if it's difficult, if it's a lot of work, you're not going to act. So we try to make it as easy as possible. Big step also for AI. Tree planting, well, a little bit more than 300,000 trees in total all over Germany. So local action is super important for us. We're still doing this. And you have maybe seen, you know, you can reduce your negative impact, but you can also do good. So regenerating ecosystems, for example. And that's something which we follow up with the trees. To put it together, more than 300,000 trees. Actually, next to Cologne, you can walk there from here. It's like 15,000 trees in Königsforst. We protect forests. That means, like, we just, there's no more business in the forest. It's just like nature growing as it would like to grow. And we also support global environmental projects as solar energy, wind energy for our customers. Who are our customers? I quickly just said it's like mostly service-based companies, because we specialize in providing real value with our software for them. However, it's more than 300. It's you see some nice logos here with more than 30 employees. We're based in Cologne and in Berlin, but you can also work fully remote. So if you think like, hey, I want to work from somewhere else, that's also fine for us. Quick overview about the founder team. It's Wilhelm, Jan, Cindy, Julian, and me. It gives me on the top down. Company structure is actually a little bit more diverse than this. So yes, there are more people and more departments, but just to get you a little bit of an overview, who's running the company. Now, the interesting part is starting. How can you actually harness AI to get companies to climate leaders, climate champions? I picked 3 different features, which I'm going to go a little bit deeper into it. First one is AI-driven CO2 accounting. I'm not sure if you can see it, but what you can imagine, you know, like every company has a CO2 footprint, so greenhouse gases that they emit by offering their service, by producing their goods. And to calculate that today, it's super time intensive. It's like, if you're really fast, it's 3 months. If you're super fast because you did it already like the last 5 years, which not a lot of companies did, then it's maybe like 1.5 or 2 months. And we brought this down to a week or 2 weeks max with the help of AI. How do we do this? So basically, every single greenhouse gas emission that is produced in your company is also measured in a number. When we're living in a financial system, so you always have an invoice for every single thing you do. You know, you go here, you have a stand, you pay. You get a water, you pay. You go somewhere, you get a ticket, you pay. And we developed a system where we can analyze all these payments automatically with the help of AI and assess the CO2 footprint. There's a TÜV certified methodology behind that. So the data is actually correct. It's still, I mean, we're still improving the model from time to time, but it's already really accurate, and it helps companies to save, as I said, like at least 3 months of times. Why is this important? Because you save time, you can take more action. It's cheaper also for the company in the end. Secondly, that's also just, I mean, first thing was measuring. Second thing is reporting. As I said, like it's a legal obligation for companies to report their data. However, we think the most important thing is to take action. And writing a report about 1,200 data points and what's behind these data points is time consuming. It's definitely useful to think about it, to read about it, and to take action about it, but to actually write it, I mean, you all know ChatGPT, you know some language models. So we developed our own language model where we use these data points to write automatically the report. That's normally work of like 2 weeks up to 6 weeks, and there you have a draft in 2 minutes. So yeah, you can also save a lot of time, and big leverage for us and for the companies working with us. Thirdly, I think, oh, nope. Yes, thirdly is the most important part. I'm not sure if this is the right slide. No, it's the right slide. If you get all this data, I was speaking about 1,200 data points. What do you do with that? You know, it's a lot of information. It's a lot of insights, and you have to imagine most of the companies today, they're not aware about the sustainability strategy of like how do they work with this data. It's like new data for them. What can they do with it? So they get all this data, they get a nice dashboard, but they have to act on it. And we actually take this data for every single step and provide you 3 solutions. So 3 things you can do now to actually get better on this data. And we got crazy good feedback because, I mean, we're doing this since a year and we didn't have AI in the beginning. So in the beginning it was just like, okay, here's your data, scope 1, 2, 3 emissions, for example. And they're like, yeah, cool. What do I do now? And it's like, yeah, you can do this or that. I mean, we have some in-house consulting, so we send some people there. We could help them to analyze the data. But in the end, this is not scalable, and it's also, I think, doesn't make sense in the long run. You know, first of all, yes, you should understand the data, but we help companies a lot of getting away from this blank space. You just have data, and there you have at least 3 solutions, and then you can choose, okay, do I want to be fast? Do I want to spend a lot of money or not so much money on the sustainability issue? What we see that people or companies just pick at least 1 or 2 actions and they implement it in their year strategy. So that's a real progress they're actually doing, because it's not just like, okay, yeah, we have the data, but yes, you can do something about this data, and in the end, you can also report something positive, and next year you can also get better on this data. So this is a huge step. Yeah. Also, wrapping it up all together, I mean, yes, I said there's a win for time, there's a win for actions, there's a win for the companies because they save human resources as well. However, you also have to think about risks. I mean, it's not just, yeah, let's throw AI on it and it's cool. We also, there's energy consumption, there's water consumption. I mean, you most probably heard about the debates. So if it's really just a small data set, does it make sense to use AI? It's an open discussion. Happy to talk about this as well. We're trialing it and we're trying to measure it as well. Like, how much do we consume? How much consumption is there? Pretty cool. Google is disclaiming this data, so that's quite nice. So we have some data available. However, yeah, what we can say right now is like for really small parts or actions, it's maybe not that smart or not that sustainable. But for the most of our customers, they're around like 5,000 to 7,000, 10,000 employees. It definitely makes sense because the impact is always greater than just like the computing power we're using. All right. That's Planted. Sustainability, simply honest. And if you want to get in touch, call me. That's the fastest way. If you want to apply, jobs@planted.green or a jobs page on our website, planted.green. Just come by the stand. We have also can enter your data there. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Heinrich. I'm really excited that we see with this green IT stage, that there are companies dedicated to solve some of the really pressing issues there and make it easier to become more sustainability as a company. So any questions that you have towards Heinrich and towards what Planted is doing there with artificial intelligence to support reporting? Yeah.
Hi, thank you for your talk. Sure. You said that you pay a fine if you don't report that data. What happens if you report the data wrongly? By example, by hallucination of your AI?
It's a good point. So all the data input you put into our software has to have a proof, because, as I also said quickly, there are financial auditors, Wirtschaftsprüfer in German, who have to check the report in the end, because they check exactly this. Is it a correct report, or are these numbers maybe not that correct? And for this, I mean, we do a cross-check with all the proofs we get from the company, and then a third party does a real or second proof check if this data is actually right. Yeah.
All right. And how did you? So did you use the large language model to just generate a report? Or are you analyzing all the receipts and stuff like that? And how do you get the CO2 equivalent value from that?
Yes, I mean, it's two different things. So first of all, yes, we have one own model where we're analyzing the invoices. So any bill, any invoice we try to get a CO2 value out of that. We also have an internal system which gives you directions like, is this model really sure about this data or not? So for example, energy consumption is pretty easy to calculate. There are public databases where we can get the equivalent and the emittent. So we're pretty strongly, confident about the data. But then there's some, I don't know, to think about something bizarre. You went for a balloon ride with your company and you're like, okay, shit, how can we calculate that? Then we maybe get a flag and our team has to dive deep and really calculate it by hand. That's the one part. That's an own model. And then for writing report, that's a wrapper. So LLM wrapper, because you get all the input data and you just, we squeezed it a little bit to our demand, but it's just a wrapper in the end. Yeah.
Thanks. Any other question? Yeah.
Hi, Heinrich. Thank you for your talk. My name is Diego. My question is, you were mentioning you train your own models. Did your team and you use PyTorch or TensorFlow in this case?
Yes, good question. And I can't disclaim it here, so I'm not gonna go deeper into that. I'm sorry for that. I mean, Moritz he's working with a concurrent, for example, and I mean, we're still in early days, and there's some services which are, I think, leveraging AI quite well, and it's still a head-to-head race a little bit, like in some spaces. Who has the better model? Who's using it better? How are the results in the end? And so we're like staying a little bit quiet about the tech behind. Sorry for that.
Yeah.
Hi, thanks. So you were just talking about the flags you get when there's a balloon ride, for example. Are you planning, or are there any approaches to enhance your language model to, like, I don't know, get a way to deal with those flaggable cases?
Moritz, can you maybe repeat, because it was not loud enough?
So
Yeah.
you were just talking about the flagged cases when, like, the balloon ride, where you don't really have a way to calculate the CO2 emission.
Yes.
So are you planning on enhancing your language model to, like, figure out how to calculate those cases too, and have like a broader approach, or is it just like a side thing?
No. It's a huge thing, and I mean, with every single client we get, we have to make contracts that we can use their proprietary data, and if we can use it, we try to train the models further. There's also data sets available. There's actually some pretty big research project going on in the UK and the States, which have big data sets, which are publicly available. However, for us, it's really cool to see like the real world data and not just like training data, and this helps us a lot to improve the models. Yes, it's an ongoing process.
Yeah. Hi. I wanted to ask, how do you keep louder? Okay. How do you keep track of all the scientific data regarding climate change or the climate crisis, or how to save CO2 emissions? How do you keep track of all of that?
I tried to repeat the question because it was not so loud. How do we keep track of all the scientific data of the new, regulations and stuff like this? Also a good question. We just hired a lawyer basically for getting all the regulations right, because there's so much new stuff coming. I mean, the law is already in service. It's transferred into German law. So about the basic law structure, we're pretty confident. However, just an example for data, we're working with an emittent provider for CO2 data, for example, and they're keeping their database daily updated. So they can actually give us the information if electricity consumed today is, 40% green electricity and 60% dirty electricity. So this is automated, but there's still some spaces where it's not fully automated. There's still a lot of work to do. Yeah.
Hello. So my question is that when we have a large language model available open source, why you want to develop your own large language model?
Yes, good question. I mean, there are two things. First of all, we try to test most of our assumptions with publicly available models because it's way faster. They're there, you can use them, cool. However, it's a little bit of a data security problem. Like, the bigger the companies get, the more data security is playing a huge role. So we really have to pay attention, like, where does the data go? How do we use it? How we structure it? Can maybe, for some solutions it's totally fine to use a public model, but like for this specific one, we say like this isn't really an asset value where we can think we can build something in the long run which is going to be better than the public ones.
Yeah, I have one another question. You told us that regarding trees, these trees are a special type of trees or just random or something like that, like you put the trees?
The tree planting?
Yeah.
Nice. Like at non-tech talks, I always get this as a first question, like, what about trees? And it's like, I mean, just 2 words before, climate-wise, they're not really a big thing because they take 5 to 6 to 10 years to actually have a certain size, so they actually store CO2 in the wood and everything. So it's a long run thing. What do? Like, we have the hypothesis that we want to build up climate stable mixed forests. So it's a lot of different wood. Like, we have a specialist forest guy, Jan, also one of our co-founders, who's looking at like flora, fauna, weather data for each specific place to try to find the best solution, because it's only trials for the next 200, 300 years. And I'm not sure how the weather is going to look like in 300 years.
Okay, we have a 5 minutes break after one last question that I want to give to you. How difficult was it to onboard the data science competencies, and what other challenges did you have to face while implementing those kind of AI approaches that in the beginning you didn't have?
Yes, also pretty good question. I mean, it's a larger transformation process. You're coming from tree planting, which is like outdoor nature, and yes, we built a little bit of software around that, but it was a little bit of a pain to restructure the company, to find the right people. Finding the right people, super difficult. So really happy to be here today. Getting also the mindset into the company. There's a different approach. It's a more data science, data-driven approach, more technical approach, definitely. We worked with some external partners together, and now we try to internalize as much as possible to actually do it by ourselves.
Thanks a lot, Heinrich, for that really interesting insights.